Hello, my name is John King. I'm with Showcase Photo and Video in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm here to introduce you to an incredible new product that we represent called ColorBurst Overdrive. This is revolutionizing the color management and proofing CMYK industry for a vast number of design firms, photography studios, corporate marketing departments, small agencies. Overdrive speaks to my 19 years of experience in color management and CMYK proofing, as it is the most effective, inexpensive, easy to use and set up. It is deadly accurate. Final proofs can be certified to be swap or grackle against the IDEAilliance standards internationally. This product is immediately available as a 15-day trial by simply going to the overdriverip.com site and downloading the Overdrive 2.15 and use it for 15 days to get a good feeling for this product. It is a Mac-only software, and you'll see that it requires 10.6 to 10.8 operating systems. We find it works very, very nice on a Mac Mini, either a 2.3 or 2.5 processor, so that if you're not already on a Mac platform, you can pick up the Mini and use it as your server connecting to any network. So let's get into this product and see why I'm so excited about it. And here is the product installed on my server. And you can see that it has a window here for the actual processing as files enter the RIP and get processed. And as they finish processing, they move to a done list where you can delete and clean up or keep for a few days. When someone calls for a second print, it's all here and ready to go. And much more simplified to do multiple copies of it or any kind of corrections, which we'll get into. The heart and soul of this program is designed around the environments, much like presets in print drivers and a variety of presets for PDF and things of that. Things you're very familiar with normally in the world of Macintosh design and layout. So we'll go through this environment because all of the work is done here. There are 5 different elements of an environment, and every environment, as you can see from the title of this particular environment, is defined by a printer, the kind of paper that's in it, roll or sheet, the DPI that you want to run, and the actual paper itself and profile that's in it. And this will become clearer as we go through it. So we start with step 1, the printer. It's an Epson 4900, and we click right to the print settings, and this is familiar screens because this is the Epson driver that comes with the printer. And we start, it will default you right to the page attributes, and at that point you select a particular page. And I build my pages and my individually in the manage custom pages. In this particular case, we have an Epson 24-inch roll, and I've already defined that as a 24-inch by 90-inch. Now we'll talk a little bit more about this 90-inch, but you want this substantially large, so it's as large as you'll ever want to print something, and then we're not always going to print 90 inches every time we put a roll of paper in there, but I'll show you how we control that later on in the dynamic height. Always select the printer here so it defines this sheet to that particular printer, including its margins. So we can create additional, you can hit the plus button and do additional pages, whatever's right for you. Here's a sheet that's been built as well for the sheet-fed printers. Hit OK, and that's our sheet. Then we move on to color matching. Color matching is always done on the Epson color controls. We want the tonal curves from Epson to play into the Overdrive. This is where it gets a little complicated, but you won't have to worry about how that happens. It just works really well. Move on to the printer itself. As we define it, we have to be sure we're talking about roll paper, and we put the semi-white proofing paper. You can put anything you want, all the different Epson papers and drivers and canvas products and things of that sort. You can put the fine art canvas in there and all the hot press, cold press, all these great new products from Epson. But you're going to, in the proofing world, although this RIP is very useful to non-proofers, to regular commercial printers, in the proofing world we'll typically want one of the proofing papers. As you can see, the standard proofing, commercial, Carolina cover, and the semi-white, which I find to be the most popular. All color management is set to off, no color management, and this means that the Epson driver will not try to manage color. It will work with Overdrive, but Overdrive takes control of all the color input and output profile. In this particular case, choose a particular DPI, and 720 is great for proofing, and set finest detail. Do not use any more of these. And then the last choice you have is, when it is a roll paper, do you want it to cut automatically and things of that sort. Cut or off. And there'll be no changes in the advanced media. Just leave that alone. That's it for the printer settings. Then we move on to the paper. This is where we tell the RIP that it's a roll. It is 24 inches wide. This will be consistent with what you set up on the previous screens. In this particular case, because it's roll, we'll hit dynamic height. This simply means if we're feeding it a 24 by 30 inch print, it will stop using paper at 30 inches. Very critical to network rippers, and that is to set your auto rotate. We find an awful lot of files that are landscape files, 18 wide, the typical landscape spread, and but yet the paper is set into the printer, in particular, well, 24-inch and the 17-inch printers, sheet fed, will typically get rotated. So this automatically rotates any file. Once you make a CMYK PDF from the workstation and save it to the hot folder, which we will talk about in a minute, it will come in, rotate, and take care of itself. Okay, then the next module part of the environment we want to select is the color module. In this case, we want to always use the ICC color management, have that selected, and always select your Pantones. When Pantones are used in your documents, this Overdrive program has licensing within it that covers the Pantone coded and the Pantone uncoded. Other Pantones are not incorporated in this software. So as an example, textile Pantones for cotton are not optimized in this software. But future releases of the Overdrive system to update the current will start to include customization and the ability to make Pantone optimization happen from CMYK and lab data. And we'll reveal more of that information as it becomes available. We always want to use in this window the embedded profiles and to attach and have those embedded profiles in your images flow through to the final document through the PDF and the printing. If you do not have profiles attached to your images, you may want to leave this off and then have the assignment of those profiles done by Overdrive, where it would pick up and attach a Grackle profile for your CMYK. But we prefer to leave that on and always use absolute colorimetric for your rendering intents. Now the all-important output profiles. You'll see from this that the output profile is the same as the paper that we chose in the Epson driver window under the printer setup, where we chose Epson proofing paper white semi-matte. So that's defaulted in there, and that is the accurate profile for our particular setup. Now, if an X-Write I1 Publish program perhaps has been used to build a specific RGB profile, that profile will then appear inside your ICC profile folder, and you can pick that custom profile up here. But this is a very powerful tool, and the vendors such as Epson do offer and pass on to you extremely accurate ICC profiles. And the proof will be in the final prints as we verify this certifiability and verification of the quality of these prints, which will become very clear to you as you proceed. So that's the story there. Now we move on to titles. Simply select your print job titles, decide what you want that information to contain, current date and time, and the environment name is very useful. Decide whether you want that label printed on the top or the bottom, and then modify your fonts and font size. And finally, the selection of the color wedge. This is an IDEAilliance color control wedge, which is developed from international standards, and when this is printed on the bottom of every one of your proofs, it will allow you to go back and certify that with a program such as X-Write's I1 Publish, and do a quality check where their spectrophotometer will read each one of these squares in a line, and then come back with a report as it analyzes the colors it read against the standard IDEAilliance color wedge. And in that way it can produce a report that you can attach to your prints when there's any suspect or any concern about whether or not the print itself is valid. This is all going to be laid out in a third module that I'm preparing on how these color wedges are turned into certification programs, and we'll get into that later. So that's it. That's our final involvement with the environment, and there is an environment built for every situation, every paper type, every paper size, roll or sheet, and of course the DPI that you're using and the profiles that you're using. So anytime you change different papers and different size papers, we'll have to load a different environment in there that will take advantage of that. And you can build any number of environments, and depending upon the flexibility you're looking for. Now let's talk a little bit more about getting the files to the RIP. The environment's set to go, and here's our RIP. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about this PDF. The best files to print CMYK, really the only files to print, are PDFs. And the reason is that when you create a PDF, it embeds all the profiles, and the PDF formula forwards all those profiles through to the system, so that when we want to use embedded profiles, we have to have a file format that allows Overdrive to read all those files. So everything is done by PDF. And once I show you how to create this PDF, then you will also agree that it's just as simple as doing a PostScript RIP. So you don't print anything across the network. You simply save PDFs into the hot folder, which I'll show you is on the server under the ColorBurst 2.15. There's the hot folder right there. And this hot folder is going to be shared through sharing. When we get into the sharing, we'll be able to select file sharing for this hot folder and give it read-write information. And once that's shared, it will be visible to everybody on the network, and they can save their files into it. We actually can connect the server and create an alias to the hot folder, and all that will be quite automatic. I like to put hot folders on all of the client desktops where it's simple for them to find it and simply save a PDF into it on the fly or drag it in. That's how the hot folder system works. It's great. And once the hot folder is populated, then it will immediately fall into this RIP. At that point, now we can also open files into the RIP. There is an open feature, so that if you want to open a PDF that hasn't gone into the hot folder, or someone can't get the hot folder posted, they can save it to the network and then come back in here and find that PDF and open it into the RIP. It's the same thing, but the hot folders are great. Now the RIP can be set up a variety of ways. First, it's on or off, so turn the RIP on. And then there's a receive on hold and a print preview selection. The choice of this simply means when a file arrives, one way or the other, either opened or hot foldered over to the RIP queue, then it will hold. It gives you an opportunity to look at it, to shrink it, to resize it. By double-clicking any file, you open up the resize capabilities. Just double-click the file and say, you know what, it's a little too big. I'm getting an error message here that says it's a little too big, or I forgot to do this, or I forgot to do that. There's something a little bit wrong with it. So that gives you a chance to manage the file one more time, make multiple copies and things of that sort if you know that you want to do that. And that has to be done over here. Now, so that gives you a chance to receive on hold. As soon as that file arrives here and it is received on hold, then the process is highlight the file and activate it. And when you activate it, it will load and it will rip as soon as it's loaded. The ripping can be quite fast, and depending upon the complexity of the file. If it has a lot of path in it, where you have logos that are heavily pathed in Illustrator, it could take some time. I've seen some of these take 20 minutes, but it's very, very rare. It's usually under a minute for it to rip and process. Now, as you get more comfortable with the rip and you take the receive on hold off and you take the print preview off, the file will rip and process across the network over to the printer. As we'll see here, this file is headed towards the printer queue, and then we're going to see errors because the printer is offline. But once this file gets finished, it will pop into the printer queue and it will print in order as it was received. But the beauty is, from a client workstation, you could simply make PDFs, save them into a hot folder, and they will drop in the basket from the printer, all in one fell, untouched, no intervention. At this point, we're already seeing here, we're going to see a print preview in a minute because I do have the print preview on. I want to show you what that does for you. I have also found in very complicated rips that take a long time and don't seem to get to the printer queue appropriately, I have kept the print preview button selected, and that then gives me literally a preview of the file, which we'll look at it. Okay, here's our print preview that was generated. At this point, I can check everything out, see how I feel about it. Here's my color bars, my wedge to certify that it's a Grackle. That's the IDEAilliance. And up here I have all my information that I requested, the file name, and all the information, date and time, and the environment. So this gives me the assurance that everything looks pretty good, and then I can click print. Then it will move over into the queue. So we see the queue just got activated, and it's offline. So there it is. And it says it's printing, but we'll get an error message in a real hurry here because it can't get through. Okay, so that's how all of that works. And I think that's about it. I really think you're on your way to some incredible, the pricing you'll see on the Overdrive site. The smallest printers are just $5.95, and then the largest printers I think are $13.95 for 64-inch printers. So it's an incredibly viable, cost-effective program, very feature-rich, and as I say, coming out shortly will be the Pantone, ability to make Pantones. And there's a few other things coming in, new features that will be free upgrades for everybody as 2.15 becomes 1.6 and 1.7, and you're on your way. I might add too that we'll help you install it for a separate fee and line the whole thing up for you, so you're plug and play when it's all said and done. That's my responsibility. I install all of these. Most customers prefer that, and get it running right away. But I do want to train employees so that they can make the modifications and really take advantage of this software. So I hope you enjoyed that, and this is a useful resource for you. Again, my pleasure to deal with you. Call me at any time, and I'll be glad to walk you through the stages of acquiring and implementing this program. Thanks again.